Good morning and welcome to the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where we're joined today by Yuri Guinart-Ramirez, who is the Expedition 40 lead scientist. She actually joined us at the beginning of Expedition 40 and told us about all the science that was at that time coming up for the crew on board the station, and now she's back to tell us what the crew accomplished while they have been in space for about 6 months for the three that are leaving tomorrow. Thanks so much for coming back.
And thanks for having me, Brandi. It's been a very exciting expedition to be able to be part of it.
Well, it definitely seems like the crew spent a lot of time on science. Can you tell us some of the highlights of what they've done?
We have been doing, of course, a variety of science, all the way from cellular biology, technology type of investigations, combustion. Human research, of course, never stops with our crew members being our main subjects there as well. One of the very interesting activities we were able to witness and a privilege from my perspective to be part of is to see an investigation come to a conclusion in the sense of the data acquisition. So, for example, with spinal ultrasound, we had crew members that had just returned at the beginning of our Expedition 40 with the prior crew members.
Okay, so they've been in space before and we're back.
They departed, and when they departed, they go through the post data collection when they get back to the ground.
Okay.
And spinal ultrasound was one of those investigations where we were able to say, yes, we got the last subject for this investigation, and we called it complete. In our ESA counterparts, we had a very similar situation as well with the previous crew members that returned. That I'm talking about our U.S. crew members, Wakata and Mastraki, on the previous return. And again, as we were kicking off our Expedition 40, the crew on the ground, the teams on the ground, the scientists are collecting the final data points for reversible figures, an ESA investigation that's also human research related in terms of the vision and how that affects your ability to see in 3Ds in space, which was also completed with the final collections. So that's always a very exciting opportunity to see that come to a closure of sorts. Of course,
these experiments go on for a long time, so it's not always easy to see the end of them, I'm sure.
That's correct. So being able to be a part of that closure is always a very exciting for us.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about how, like we said, this crew spent a lot of time on science. How does it compare in number of hours to some of the past expeditions?
Well, this is one of those moments where you go back after you've been through the 6-month course and you see that we were able to accomplish a lot of objectives. When you look at crew hours are certainly one way of measuring it. Of course, there's many different ways of looking at all the science objectives that get accomplished, but we were very fortunate to be able to meet all the hours that we had originally planned for the increment and go a little bit beyond that. And we also were fortunate to be able to be in a position where all the teams came together and we were able to break the number of hours in 1 week.
Oh, wow.
Dedicated to utilization over 38 hours in 1 week. 83 hours in 1 week.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And this comes the part where the entire team, not just the scientists and all of the different control centers, international partners, everybody helps make it happen, as well as the flight control team here and the engineering community and everybody that is behind it. So that really is a testament to the entire team.
And being able to keep the station going while they're doing all this science, I'm sure, is not always the easiest task.
Exactly. We have had some challenges in terms of systems that the teams have had to maneuver through, and with all that, we've been able to accomplish all the science. So that is the remarkable part, as well as part of it.
Well, I know on top of kind of the regular things that we think of as science, there were also a couple of American technology demonstrations during the past few months. Legs for Robonaut and a few other things. Why don't you tell us about that?
Robonaut, we were able to kick off that augmentation, if you would, where we went and did a lot of the mobility upgrades, and it culminated in the legs, the installation of the legs. But behind that, there was almost a robotic brain surgery going on when we had our crew members going through and rewire, per se, the Robonaut so that it can eventually become mobile. And we will be waiting for the backpack to come in so that he can continue with some of those demonstrations as well. But it was a big overhaul of the Robonaut and a big surgery and technology behind that, and finally the leg attachment.
And hopefully we'll be seeing a little bit more work from Robonaut in the coming months.
Yes, I think it's probably in the plans for the next few expeditions.
What about? I know there was the veggie greenhouse that we got a crop from. How has that started looking?
That was another very successful demonstration. It was a twofold objective to demonstrate the facility in itself, the veggie facility, and its ability to grow plants. And we had our Veg 01 investigation where we were able to grow romaine lettuce, red romaine lettuce, and you can
Look
see
at some of
some
that
of
here.
those. Yes, and they were having a competition between the ground teams and of course our ground controls and the crew on board. I think Steve spent a lot of time growing that lettuce very successfully, and we will return samples in a future mission, and the teams will be able to analyze that and continue to tweak the processes by which we grow um, all different kinds of plants on
Okay.
space.
All right. Well, in addition to all of the new experiments in science that we saw, there were also some old favorites, I guess, that we're seeing again and again, like bass and spears. How are those going?
We did extremely well. We were able to recover from some of the situations incoming through with the bass experiment facility and continue through a variety of the fuel samples that we were burning and different
The crew, I think, did
materials.
some maintenance and looked into some issues with the igniter. Was it
It was a door that we had to
a
repair
door?
the
Okay.
door, and we fixed that successfully, and we're able to continue the study of suppressing fire and how different kinds of fuels burn at different flow rates and how that affects that burning process. So clearly, it's something that we need to continue to investigate for fire safety in the future.
And those are really interesting to watch from here on the ground as well, as is spheres, which we're seeing a little bit of today. So
That's right. A spheres slosh, as you mentioned earlier, it is an investigation to see how the liquids will move inside containers. And one of the very direct applications we could have for propulsion systems is for those liquid propulsion systems, so we can understand that slosh effect as tanks are going into microgravity and
liquid moves a little different in microgravity, and this helps us understand that.
exactly.
Okay. Well, thanks again. I guess before you go, I know it's not going to be you're not going to be the lead for the next one, but maybe you can give us a quick preview of what we'll see in for Expedition 41.
Yeah, I'm sure you will have our the next lead increment scientist, Vic Cooley, will probably be stopping by in the next week or so. But very quickly, I know we have a lot of things in store, not only to continue a lot of the human research investigations we've started, but also um, we'll be able to look at SpaceX 4 coming up, which will bring a lot of exciting investigations like rodent research with it and some other plant gravity sensing kind of investigations.
All right. We'll be sure and ask Vic about those when he's visiting with us. Thanks again for coming back. This again was Yuri Guinart-Ramirez, the lead Expedition 40 scientist, giving us a wrap up of what the crew's been up to for the past 6 months.